And one thing that we see oftentimes is that the e-commerce teams are great, but they're not really staffed. They're staffed to do their D2C really well generally, and they might be managing it with Magento or Shopify or Commerce Cloud or something like that. But they're not really staffed to then start to do Amazon really, really well internally. And then, of course, Walmart.com or Target.com or eBay, and then international. I mean, it just becomes a cluster pretty quickly because of this, lack of data, lack of really human capital resources to effectively do this. So that's where brands will normally turn to us. But, Nancy, you mentioned because of your kind of parent company, et cetera, you've been able to see kind of both sides of the coin. And maybe at some point you guys even thought about doing this yourselves versus working with an accelerator like Pattern. What were some of the key things you thought about or considered as you were going down that path?
Yeah, I think, as we said in the beginning that, a lot of it has to do with your particular business model, where your organization is, how savvy you are, how much, whether it's risk or tolerance you have for resources that would be necessary. I think for us, it in large part came down to looking at the capabilities of the partner and really comparing them to our own internal capabilities and what it would take to bring on those resources to match those kinds of capabilities. And did we have the tolerance for that? And I think at the end of the day, we kind of, sat back, did our evaluations, looked at the parent company as well, and said, this is not something that we necessarily want to take on. And I will tell you that, I mean, as much as I know about, and this is me speaking from my own experience, as much as I know about Amazon, and I've been in the space 25 years, that Pattern teaches me something almost every day that I didn't know the day before. So even with our level of knowledge and comfort with the space, sometimes those really expert resources get you to a level that you didn't even know you could attain. So for us, it was the right decision. But I get margin is always a consideration for lots of people. But you have to look at as an organization for where you want to be and what level of risk you're willing to take.
Yeah, so great. And I'll actually echo back to you the same sort of thing. Like, we learn a lot from you and the team at Megafood every day as well. And I think the difference for us is that we also have, 80 other brands that are constantly feeding us information, not just about, best practice or theoretical or software tools or any of that data science stuff, but literally what's happening on the Amazon side. There's a little bit of a curtain there sometimes, but because we have, 90 some odd brands feeding us back what they're seeing on their end, and we're constantly running into tickets that aren't getting resolved, or subscribe and save issues, like whatever the number is, I think it's helping us to get more savvy and smarter and able to kind of share, obviously with a high degree of privacy, best practices across, so that all boats kind of rise with the tide.
Well, and I think the the issue that I spoke of earlier, where we as a VMS brand have gotten hit recently, having the power of an organization with more brands is working to our benefit. If we were trying to tackle this issue on our own, I'm not sure that we would have been, quite as well equipped.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's a great point. I'll just say too, the one thing that I do find a lot of brands coming back to me, which kind of makes sense in hindsight, I didn't necessarily expect it, is just that, a lot of brands do feel like in a one-piece scenario, and maybe even when they're doing it on their own, like, no one's in their corner. And Amazon, least of all, it's like, we don't care if your brand wins. We care if the category wins. We care if VMS wins. And if it so happens to be one of your competitors steals your share, your problem, not ours. We're still growing the category. And we generally find that brands feel a lot more empowered, and like we're, Pattern is in the ring with them and we're backing them up. We're very conscious, I guess, of the, of that brand's particular growth rate, and not at the expense of something in the category. So I think it's another kind of element to this. Steve, you've, again, helped walk a number of brands through this decisions, and it doesn't always end in, like, sometimes actually we agree with brands that it's better for them to do it 3P. Maybe you can shed some light on some of the considerations that you've seen brands wrestle with and how they think through whether to do it on their own or use an accelerator like Pattern?
Yeah, I mean, again, at its core, it's a financial consideration. Can I save the margin that I would pay Pattern or another third-party agency by doing it myself? And then you start to look at that. Okay, well, what does that mean? What, on my side of that equation, what are the things I need to consider? There's tools that you would need to leverage. There's talent. Do you live in a marketplace, or is your organization a marketplace that has that type of talent? And then using Voorhees or other services to help maintain that control. I mean, it's definitely possible. But then the question is, so you have it locked down. Well, now do you have access to the data that you need to really grow and now compete in your category against new competitors that are popping up, some of your traditional competitors? And let's say that you do figure Amazon out and you're growing at a really healthy pace. Well, then what about Walmart? What about Target? What about international marketplaces that aren't Amazon? The equation starts getting more complicated. And if you can find a single partner that can do the whole thing for you, and you can see you can find a way to make the economics work. For me, that's a more logical choice. But you really have to lay everything out and really understand, where your risk lies, where the costs lie, and kind of make a good strategic decision.